Shocking images of dead refugees on beaches in the eastern Mediterranean have added a new level of anguish and concern to the escalating migrant crisis gripping Europe and brought renewed pressure on the continent's political leaders to finally do something to address a problem that they have seemed all too happy to dodge for years. With me here to discuss Europe's response to the crisis is Philip Stevens, the FT's chief political commentator. Philip, I mean, there's no other way of putting it. The response has just been pitiful, hasn't it?
I think you're right. It is pitiful. I think if one's being kind towards European governments, you would say they've been caught off guard by the scale and the speed of the migration. In fact, it's two streams of migration. We've had for many, many months now the stream of people coming across the Western Mediterranean through Libya. But what's happened in the last sort of 2 months is that has merged with a much bigger, in fact, stream now coming from Syria, from Iraq, overland from Turkey and to Greece across the Aegean Sea. And that's created a real crisis of terrible humanitarian proportions, but also a political problem. And frankly, European governments have retreated into sort of narrow nationalism, and in the case, sad to say, of places like Hungary, into rather bigoted xenophobia.
Right. But also, I mean, there's been criticism levelled here in the UK at the response of David Cameron, Prime Minister, and the UK government on that. He's now facing ever-increasing pressure to sort of do something, even from his own backbenchers.
Yeah, I think Mr. Cameron has misread this and misread it quite badly. The government's been preoccupied for many years now with the rise in immigration to Britain from mostly from the rest of the European Union. And it's, if you like, been allergic to the idea of taking in migrants coming across Europe. But I think the Prime Minister has failed to understand the difference, as it were. And I think ordinary people in Britain understand the difference between refugees from places like Syria and places in Iraq which have been occupied by Islamist terrorists, and those, if you like, so-called economic migrants who come from relatively safe countries. So I think and I hope that Mr. Cameron will, if you like, shift his position over coming days and be more accepting, because I certainly think the people of Iceland can say, look, we'll take 10,000 Syrians. And Britain is saying, well, look, we're not going to take more than a few hundred. Something's gone badly wrong.
Well, one country that said it's prepared to take even more in terms of numbers of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands even, is Germany. I mean, do you think that the response of Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, who's been credited with, finally showing some leadership on this issue, whereas people felt she was perhaps being a bit not demonstrating enough leadership on other big issues in Europe, such as the Euro crisis. Do you accept that view? Or
I think that's right. I think the two countries that stand out as having grasped the scale of the problem and taken a generous view are Sweden, has taken tens of thousands of Syrian refugees, and above all Germany, where literally we're talking now in the hundreds of thousands expected this year. And Mrs. Merkel, who for many of us misplayed, if you like, the Greek Euro crisis, where Germany looked rather overbearing and in some cases bullying, has shown the other side of leadership, which is leadership by example and leadership with generosity. And her government's come up with a plan, which isn't sort of let's open all of Europe's doors to anyone who wants to come, but let's have a system for processing Europe-wide these people, to sort out refugees from, as I said, so-called economic migrants, and then to, if you like, share out the immediate burden. Because I think in the long term, these refugees are not a burden, they're an asset, but there's an immediate dislocation. Let's share that out, she's saying, between different European countries. Most, I think, will go along with that, but I think the objections we've seen, sadly, in the former communist states of Eastern Europe and in places like Britain. But I think at some point, if you like, the images that we're now seeing, people asphyxiated in the backs of lorries, that young child washed up on the beach in eastern Turkey. I think, if you like, the public mood, I think the politicians rejecting the refugees are missing the change in the public mood.
So, I mean, you've said, it seems you think that the proposals put forward by Ms. Merkel and others have sort of thought along similar lines are credible and could work. But there are other people saying also that you need to also address some of the problems in the countries of origin, and that means Europe needs to have a more sort of engaged regional foreign and security policy that's been lacking. It's been unable to. It even tried to mount a Mediterranean Union, a sort of initiative to address the near abroad in that region, and it failed. It didn't go anywhere really.
Look, that's absolutely true. In the medium to long term, Europe has to work to, if you like, help stabilize its neighborhood. We thought we could close our eyes and our ears to places like Syria and what's happened in Libya. We can't. We now know that, and we have to have political, economic, and perhaps even security intervention in some of these places. But in the short term, and that's this year, next year, and perhaps even the year after, we actually have to accept these people as refugees, accept the talent and the energy and the resources that they bring with them, but do so in a way that recognizes that no European country can put up fences against the world on its own. And if Europe acts in concert, in the end, we'll see the benefits of this rather than costs.
Philip Stevens, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. For more on this topic and other subjects covered by FT Comment, please go to ft.com/comment. Thank you.